Hey guys, back with another video, and this one's going to be my top 10 favorite video game soundtracks. I'm actually kind of surprised I haven't done a video like this. I've done one that's sort of similar, where I think I did it was like my top 10, 15 favorite video game songs, and I did that quite a long time ago. I'll leave a link to that video in the description, but that list will have changed by now, because I've played a lot more games since then, and I've heard a lot more great video game music. And I'm actually going to jump right into the list here, but I should say, I guess, how this is going to be done. This video is going to be done. Basically, it's a top 10 list. I'll start at number 10 and work my way up. I'll talk about the game's soundtrack, why I really enjoy the soundtrack so much. And this is, yes, soundtracks. So a soundtrack as a cohesive whole and how well it fits the game and just how great the music is for each of these games. So I'll explain why I kind of love the soundtrack so much. And then I'm just going to play my favorite song from each soundtrack for you. So this could be a lengthy video, but it should be a fun one to do. And then afterwards, I'll do some honorable mentions, since there's quite a lot of honorable mentions. And this list overall was very hard to put together, I gotta say. It was tough, especially choosing favorite songs. That was like one of the hardest parts. But yeah, let's just immediately get started. Alright, so at number 10 we have Mega Man 10. Now, it was tough to choose a Mega Man game. I think the Mega Man and the Mega Man X series, like all of those games, have phenomenal soundtracks, and I've loved the soundtracks of these games since I was a kid. At first I had Mega Man 3 on the list, and I started to listen to the soundtracks again, every Mega Man soundtrack, at least the ones that I know I like. And Mega Man 10 is the one that stood out to me the most. I think it has this really... It's one of the more eclectic soundtracks in the series. Some really weird songs on this one, but I think it works in the game's favor. And it's just some of the songs on this soundtrack I think are really strange, but they work so well. There's a lot of catchy songs. There's some more like sad sounding tunes. It's weird. Like a lot of Mega Man games have really upbeat music, though there are some slower, more melodic songs. But the soundtrack for Mega Man 10 is all over the place, and I actually really like it. I think there's like multiple composers with this soundtrack, as far as I know, at least. And yeah, it's when I listen to all the soundtracks, this is the one that stood out to me the most. But Mega Man as a series, like, has always had phenomenal soundtracks. Mega Man 3 is another, of course, personal favorite of mine. Mega Man 2, I know, is talked about with high regard, and honestly, maybe a controversial opinion, but I think Mega Man 3 actually has a better soundtrack than Mega Man 2. Not by much, but I think I do prefer Mega Man 3's soundtrack. But yeah, Mega Man 10 soundtrack, I think, stands out to me as the most unique of all the games, and I like listening to it again. I was really shocked at how many of the songs I enjoyed. I remember when I first played Mega Man 10, I was blown away by the soundtrack. I was like, wow, holy shit, because Mega Man 9 had an amazing soundtrack too, but Mega Man 10, I think they blew it out of the water. I thought the soundtrack was really phenomenal. So the song I chose is called Cyber Sheep's Dream, Sheepman's theme, which is really catchy, really weird, and fits the odd stage and odd boss in general. A really interesting song, although I actually know a few people that don't like this song so much, but I'll let you be the judge. But the first time I heard it, I remember I just sat there and just listened to the whole thing instead of playing the game. It's the song out of all the songs in the soundtrack, it's the one that stood out to me the most, and it's very different from like any other song I've heard in the Mega Man series. So yeah, Mega Man 10 at number 10. At number 9 is Snatcher, and for the Sega CD, and this is quite the interesting game. I played this not too long ago. I have a review up on the channel if you want to check that out. And this is actually my favorite Kojima game. Now, granted, I haven't played too many of his games, but this game was fantastic. And one of the main reasons I loved it so much was the incredible soundtrack. Now, this is one of those soundtracks that's very cohesive, and all the songs kind of have a similar vibe to them, and that they give off this kind of mysterious vibe. And the game is a very mysterious game, kind of film noir, cyberpunk-ish. It definitely reminds me a lot of Blade Runner. And the soundtrack is so great at creating this eerie atmosphere, and it never lets up with this game. Now, there are some more like trancey kind of techno-ish tracks, but and some of them are catchy, but there's also a lot of really like foreboding, eerie, creepy tracks. And my favorite song, the song I chose here, is Creeping Silence. And it's one of those songs, like a lot of the songs with the soundtrack, it's not an amazing song to listen to it outside of the game, although I do enjoy listening to the soundtrack outside of the game. It's one of those soundtracks, though, that's better when you're playing the game, because it just fits the game so well, and it helps to create this really thick atmosphere. And like some of the songs combined with like the environments you're exploring in this game create like this atmosphere that really gave me the chills, to be honest. And this song in particular, Creeping Silence, with the locations that it plays through that in the game. This song plays in a few different parts of the game. The first time I heard it, I was like, wow, this is some creepy shit. And the game just has this atmosphere throughout, and the soundtrack is one of the big reasons why it has this really interesting atmosphere. So yeah, the soundtrack overall was really top notch. I really was not expecting to love the soundtrack near as much as I did. So yeah, definitely an interesting song. I don't know how successful it will be outside of the game, especially if you haven't played the game. So I don't know, that might be a bit weird, but I definitely implore you to try to play Snatcher. I know the game's expensive. It's very hard to play it. You play it on emulation. Like, use emulation if you have to. That's what I had to resort to, unfortunately. I really wish we could see a re-release of this game, because I really think it's like an absolutely amazing game. But yeah, enough talking about Snatcher. Snatcher soundtrack definitely lands at the number 9 spot. At number 8 is Silent Hill 2. Akira Yamaoka did the soundtrack for this game, as well as all of the Team Silent Hill games. Actually, I think he did even Homecoming, I think. And I love every single one of his soundtracks that he's done for this series. But Silent Hill 2, I think, is his magnum opus. A very haunting soundtrack. It has elements of like industrial music in a lot of the songs. Some of them even have some vocals. And the music here, like with Snatcher, it's a soundtrack that I think is better when you're playing the game. It just fits with the game so well. But I have to actually make special mention of the sound design in general for Silent Hill 2. Like especially like the sound effects. Really creepy stuff. Like one of the reasons why to me Silent Hill 2 is so creepy is like I said, I've said this a million times before, but the atmosphere, and why the atmosphere is so creepy is because has a lot to do with the music and the sound effects and like the audio design in general. And this soundtrack I think is absolutely phenomenal. My favorite song has got to be Theme of Laura, the Reprise, a piano-driven piece that's just very haunting, very beautiful. I remember the first time I heard it, I was just like, wow, like this is like one of the all-time greats. I knew them immediately the first time I heard it. But yeah, a really amazing soundtrack. A lot of people always have like their favorites, but the Theme of Laura Prize is always the one that sticks with me. But the overall, like the soundtrack for this game is incredible. The original Silent Hill also has an amazing soundtrack, and Silent Hill 3 has almost like Silent Hill 3, like that soundtrack I like slightly less than Silent Hill 2. Like that's another killer soundtrack. But yeah, Silent Hill 2 definitely a fantastic soundtrack and deserving of number 8 on my list. At number 7 is the soundtrack for Parasite Eve. Yoko Shinomura did the soundtrack for this game, and she's one of my favorite composers. Every single soundtrack I've heard from her, I've absolutely loved, and this is my favorite of hers. I think it's her most unique, and like I've never heard a soundtrack like this before. Like it's really different. It takes influences from like opera music and electronic music, but it has its own feel, and it really fits the game perfectly. I love pretty much every song on this soundtrack. The song I picked is called Out of Phase. It's the song, I'm pretty sure this is the song that's played the most throughout the game. It's really catchy. It's like got a driving force behind it. And it's hard. It's one of those songs that as soon as you hear it, it just sticks in your head. I remember the first time I heard it, I was just like, wow. And it just really stuck with me. A lot of the songs just really stuck with me. And again, they all go to create this really interesting atmosphere. Parasite Eve has a really somewhat creepy atmosphere, but at the same time, not. It's weird. It's hard to describe. But like one of the reasons why I loved that game so much was Yoko Shinomura's soundtrack. It was really interesting. Like there's nothing quite like it out there. And from I don't know if she did the soundtrack for Parasite Eve 2. I'm struggling to remember, but from what I played of that, the soundtrack in that there like almost wasn't like a soundtrack. I didn't remember much music with that game, but like Parasite Eve, immediately when you start playing it, the music is like right there, right in your face, and it's like, whoa, this is crazy. This is really interesting stuff. So yeah, and this is another game I played very recently. I played this game for the first time not too long ago, and the soundtrack is already in my top 10, which is pretty crazy. And there's a lot of games that Yoko Shinomura has done that I still haven't played yet. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what else. Or the rest of her soundtracks, but this is my favorite of hers for now. So yeah, Parasite Eve at number 7. Number 6 is Final Fantasy VII. Now, what top 10 soundtracks list wouldn't be complete without a Final Fantasy soundtrack? And it was actually an easy choice for me. I've actually played most of the Final Fantasy games at this point, and while Final Fantasy V has my favorite song in the entire series, Battle on the Big Bridge, I fucking love that song. Final Fantasy VII to me had the most consistent soundtrack where I love pretty much every song on it. Every other Final Fantasy game, there was at least a couple tracks that I was like kind of like, it's all right. But Final Fantasy VII, and I went and listened to all the soundtracks for the Final Fantasy games I have played again, and FF7, like I was like constantly, every song that came up, I was just like, wow. I forgot how good this soundtrack was, and obviously the soundtrack's known to be amazing. Nobuo Uematsu. And it was very tough picking a favorite track, very hard. It was between Aerith's theme, which I know everyone loves that song. So I went with something a little different. I don't know if this is like a fan favorite or anything. I don't think it is. I don't think this is one of like the really well-loved tracks in this game, but it's called Underneath the Rotting Pizza. It's a weird name, but it's a song that plays very in the early hours of the game. And it's this weird song. It's like... it's very funky. It's got like a kind of a funky beat to it that's really catchy, and it's, I don't know, it fits like the area of the game that it plays during. It's really different, man. And I remember the first playing FF7 and this song came up. I was just like, what is this? This is so weird and interesting. It was so catchy. Like I couldn't get it out of my head. And I don't think this is one of like the most well-loved tracks. Obviously, the soundtrack has a lot of fan favorites. One-Winged Angel, obviously, people love that song. Genova, like the main battle theme, I love. It's actually my favorite battle theme in, like, at least main battle theme out of all the Final Fantasy games I've played. But yeah, FF7. Like, what's there to say about the soundtrack of this game? It's been talked about at length countless times. I don't know much what else I could add to the conversation, really. All I can really say is it's an amazing soundtrack, and it definitely deserves a spot on my list. It would probably be higher for a lot of other people. And as you've noticed, I am including, like, I'm making sure I only choose one composer for this list and one game per series. Kind of putting some rules, but yeah. Number 6, Final Fantasy VII. At number 5 is Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. I've talked about this game so many times, but the soundtrack in this game, it's fucking phenomenal. A very laid back kind of soundtrack. Although actually quite a few of the soundtracks have a lot of like energy to them. It's very it's catchy. A lot of the songs are very catchy here and pleasant. It's just an overall pleasant soundtrack that makes you just feel good. Like playing this game just makes you feel great, and the soundtrack plays a big part in that. Now, with the exception of one song, which happens to be my favorite song in the entire game, and it's the final boss theme. I don't know the official name for it. I'm just going to call it the final boss theme. And it plays while you're fighting the enormous version of Baby Bowser. And this song is fucking metal. And when I first heard this song when I was a kid playing this game, it blew me away. I was just like, holy crap. It's really intense. It's rocking, and it's like it's crazy. But it fits the boss battle so well. The composer, Koji Kondo, obviously, he's done so many fantastic soundtracks, and this song is so different from everything else on the soundtrack itself, and then it's different from everything else he's done. Because yeah, this song is fucking metal, man. I love it. It's super high energy, and it's crazy, man. And it just gets you pumped. It's awesome. Maybe a little on the cheesy side, but I'll always remember it. It's always going to be my favorite song from the soundtrack. But overall, the soundtrack is phenomenal. It's the kind of soundtrack where once you hear a song, you just start humming it. Fantastic soundtrack. Yeah, number 5, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. And at number 4 is Earthbound, another game I've talked about quite a bit. And this soundtrack is just, man, it's just incredible. It's one of those soundtracks that has like a wide range of influences, like from like the Beach Boys to the Beatles to like classical music, folk music. Like if you've read interviews with the composers, like it's the amount of like the crazy amount of influences the soundtrack or the composers had for the soundtrack is absolutely crazy. There's like it's very like a very eclectic soundtrack. Like there's just each song is different. There's some really weird songs. There's some creepy songs. There's some upbeat, energetic songs. There's a bunch of samples too in a lot of the music. And it's there's nothing quite like it, and it fits the game so well. It was quite hard to pick a favorite track here. I one of the songs I think made my list of like the top 15 favorite songs that I did years ago. But I think I have like a new favorite song in this game. Like it always changes with the Earthbound soundtrack. The song I chose though is Home Sweet Home, which is one of those songs that's just when you listen to it, you're just like it just makes you feel good. And it's just it brings you back. Like a lot of the songs with Earthbound, it's like I listen to these songs now, and it just brings me back to when I was a kid playing through this game. When it was just everything was so, I don't know. It's just it gives me like a nostalgic feeling. This soundtrack, more than any other soundtrack for any other game. It brings you back to those days of like classic Super Nintendo RPGs. And Home Sweet Home, I think, is the perfect example of that. The ONET theme song is fantastic as well. Yeah, just a flat out brilliant soundtrack. Mother 3 also has an amazing soundtrack. That's one of the honorable mentions. I might as well mention it here, but yeah, it's a very great soundtrack. I must say, definitely deserving of number 4 on my list. And at number 3 is a game I've played very recently, and that is Undertale. And this is actually the reason I even started to do this list. Because, yeah, this game managed to crack the top 3 of my favorite video game soundtracks, and it just came out not too long ago. Now, the soundtrack in this game, man, it's fucking incredible. The game itself, I've done a review on it. The game itself is, I think, an absolute masterpiece. I think it's one of the best games ever made, and the soundtrack is like one of the many reasons why I love this game so much. It's definitely got some Earthbound inspirations. I think actually the soundtrack here is better than Earthbound, where although the soundtrack in this is, I think, a little more cohesive. I think Earthbound soundtrack is very eclectic. Like I said, a lot of different sounding songs. There's a lot of kind of like upbeat, energetic songs, a lot of epic songs, and a lot of sad songs too. The song I picked as my favorite is the shop theme, the song that plays when you visit a shop, and it's all in like first person. And the song that plays is very short. It's a very short song, but it's like when I first heard it, I immediately loved it. I was like, oh man, because like with the Home Sweet Home and Earthbound, it's one of those songs that just brought me back. It's like nostalgia in music form. And a lot of the songs were like that in this game. My favorite song in the game is actually one that I'm not going to play for you because it's so good and it's so... to talk about it, I would spoil the game. I would spoil the experience for you because it's one of those songs that when it started playing, and the song in combination with the part of the game that it plays at is just so powerful. It's so emotional that it got to me. I gotta say, Undertale is one of those few games that actually made me tear up. It's something else. That one song in particular, but it's a very massive soundtrack. Like there's so many songs to it, and I actually ended up buying it on Steam. You can buy the soundtrack along with the game. I didn't buy the soundtrack right away actually because I wanted to play the game first. But the soundtrack is so good that I had to go out and get it. And the soundtrack is done by one guy. The same guy who did the entire game. His name's Toby Fox, and this guy is a monster talent, man. The soundtrack here is absolutely incredible. But I'm gonna play the shop theme for you. But it's already cracked my top 3, so it's really impressive, really really impressive stuff. So yeah, Undertale at number 3. And at number 2 is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Now I'm cheating a bit here. I said I was only going to do one composer per list or per game. This is Koji Kondo again. Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game, and this is my favorite soundtrack from Koji Kondo and my favorite soundtrack in the entire series. The soundtrack in this game is something else. Now, Majora's Mask, I've talked about this game a bunch, and one of the reasons why I love it so much is its atmosphere. And its atmosphere is so amazing, mostly due to the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really different here. Most of it is actually quite dark and foreboding and very chilly and kind of eerie. There's some upbeat kind of happier songs like the Clocktown theme, which is an amazing song. I love that song. The whole soundtrack I fucking absolutely love, but the song I picked is The Final Hours, End of the World. This is the song that plays on the final day as the minutes are counting down before the moon crashes down to the earth and destroys everything. I haven't mentioned that Majora's Mask is the darkest Zelda game and will always be the darkest Zelda game. And this song is just haunting. Hauntingly beautiful is, I think, the perfect way to describe it. and it's nostalgic to me as well because it's a when I first heard the song playing the game as a kid, it really is. It makes you feel like, yeah, the world's going to end soon and it's hopeless. The song gives like a kind of sense of hopelessness, and it's eerie, and it really sticks with you. This song, very emotional. The song just really gets me emotional every time I hear it. Another really interesting thing with the soundtrack, there's a song that plays in each of the main areas. I forget what the name of the song is, but depending on what area you're in, the song is different. Like different instruments are used. For the swamp, the song has a totally different feel than in like the water area, the Zora area, which I thought that was an interesting touch. But a lot of the songs are pretty dark in this game. That main song that plays in each of the 4 areas is very dark too. That's another one of my favorite songs in the soundtrack. I forget the name at the moment, but that song is really it like all the music in this game kind of creates this really eerie, creepy atmosphere that the game just has. Like you always feel like that there's this big threat, and there is a big threat. And it's just, I don't know, the game's atmosphere is absolutely incredible. I actually want to, this is a bit off topic, but I would like to recommend Matthewmatosis. He's one of my favorite people on YouTube. He does like really in-depth overviews of video games. He's done a video on every single game in the 3D Zelda series, and in his Majora's Mask review, he talks about atmosphere and why Majora's Mask has one of the best atmospheres in video games. And I really would definitely recommend you watch that video. He does a much better job explaining what makes Majora's Mask such an amazing game, better than I can. But yeah, the soundtrack is one of the reasons why I think the game's atmosphere is absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's a phenomenal soundtrack. I think Koji Kondo's best work, hands down. And the song Final Hours in particular, I think is really a nice standout, even though I think the whole soundtrack is amazing. But yeah, number 2, Majora's Mask. All right, and number 1, my favorite video game soundtrack of all time, Chrono Cross, with honorable mention to Chrono Trigger. Really, these two are interchangeable, although I do prefer Chrono Cross's soundtrack. I think it's more consistent, but Chrono Trigger is right up there too, and actually Chrono Trigger has Corridors of Time, which, in my opinion, is the greatest piece of music ever composed for a video game. I think that song is just an absolute masterpiece. But Chrono Cross, Yasunori Mitsuda's masterpiece soundtrack, I think. Although there's still some soundtracks he's done I've yet to listen to. But every single soundtrack this guy has done, I've absolutely fucking loved. And this soundtrack is very, like, every song on it is fucking incredible. And I played this game for the first time very recently. It wasn't too long ago that I first played this game, and every single song, I was just like, wow. It really blew my fucking mind, really. The only song I'm not crazy about, actually, is the battle theme, surprisingly enough. I don't hate it, but I think it's the weakest song on the soundtrack. But it's got kind of like a Mediterranean feel to, like, a lot of the songs have that kind of feel because the game kind of has a tropical setting of sorts. Now, my favorite song is actually Prisoners of Fate, but I'm not going to actually play that one. I'm not going to choose that one because that's a song that I would really like people to listen to in the game. Because at the moment that song plays is just really emotional and will really, I think, stick with you. But the song I chose is called, why is the name not coming to me now? Home's Grasslands, I think. I don't know why the name is the name. I can't think of the name right now, but it'll show up on the screen. This song has kind of like elements of Quarters of Time in it, and it's one of those songs that immediately when I heard it, I was like, wow, this is incredible, and I just sat there listening to it. And again, it's one of those songs that like brings me nostalgia. I get this like nostalgic feeling for JRPGs of days past, and the whole game gave me that feeling. Even though the plot in it is far more complex than a Chrono Trigger, but yeah, it's one of those soundtracks that's just amazing from top to bottom. It's always going to stick with me. This Chrono Cross soundtrack has, like, a lot of people consider it one of the greatest soundtracks ever composed for a video game, and I agree. It was a tall order because I had heard opinions on the soundtrack before I played the game, and I was expecting the soundtrack to be great. And I'd played Xenogears before, which that game has another absolutely amazing soundtrack. So yeah, it met my expectations and then some. It exceeded my expectations, which is crazy. But yeah, Mitsuda hasn't done a whole lot recently, which is kind of a shame. I would like to see him do more video games, but I can't even think of the last thing he did. I think he's doing music for Stella Glow, I think, on the 3DS. I think that's coming out here soon. But yeah, the Chrono Cross soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal. Whether it will remain my favorite, who knows? Undertale came close, but yeah, Chrono Cross, I think, holds the #1 spot for sure. So that's it, guys. Let's go over some honorable mentions. Well, actually, first I want to say, if you've noticed, my list is primarily Japanese composers. Undertale is the only game here, I think. Yeah, Undertale is the only game with that wasn't composed by someone Japanese, and I've always found Japanese soundtracks to be far superior to Western games. Like Western games always seem to have orchestral soundtracks, and like honestly, orchestral soundtracks I think are really boring for video games. And like honestly, and some honorable mentions here. There are some Western games, but yeah, to me, like Japanese games, mostly RPGs, seem to always have the best soundtracks. Even today, I think. I don't know. I feel like Japanese composers are focused more on like melody and just like I don't know, creating like an atmosphere of sorts. Like orchestral music, I don't even think it really kind of creates an atmosphere in Western games. It's just kind of like in the background. You never even really notice it a lot of the times. But yeah, honorable mentions. Nier, that's a soundtrack I know a lot of people love. A very unique soundtrack. And it was close to making the list, but not quite. I know people really love the soundtrack of the game, and trust, and I love it too for sure. Shovel Knight, which there's a soundtrack that's not done by a Japanese composer, but the soundtrack for Shovel Knight is influenced like really influenced by like old school Mega Man and old school Zelda and Castlevania. So it might as well be a Japanese composer. But the soundtrack for Shovel Knight was absolutely phenomenal. Super Mario RPG, another Yoko Shinomura soundtrack that I really enjoyed. Super Mario Brothers 3, and one of those classic games, and I think the soundtrack is just really holds up in that game. Koji Kondo is, I think, probably my second favorite composer after Mitsuda. Jet Force Gemini, there's a Western game developed in the UK. Jet Force Gemini, I think, has a really excellent soundtrack, very John Williams-esque. But yeah, some really excellent tracks in that game, actually. That was very close to making the list. Pokemon Blue, I think, actually has a really underrated soundtrack. I never really hear people talk about that game as far as a soundtrack goes, but I really loved the soundtrack in that game. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I think, has a masterful soundtrack. That was very close to making the list. Chrono Trigger, like I mentioned, that's like kind of tied with my number one, basically. Mother 3, which I mentioned before. But yeah, that's about it for honorable mentions. But yeah, heavy on the Japanese composers for sure. But yeah, that's it, guys. What are some of your favorite soundtracks and songs in games? Hope you enjoyed the video. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.